Have you ever met someone for the first time and instantly felt drawn to them, not because of their impressive resume, but just something about the way they carried themselves? A confident smile, an articulate way of speaking, or a sharp appearance. It just gives you a good feeling, right? We often dismiss this as chemistry or a gut instinct, but psychologically, it's often something more powerful and far less rational. This is a deep dive into a profound psychological bias known as the halo effect. It's the mechanism in your brain that takes one single positive trait and uses it to paint an entire glowing portrait of a person. We're going to spend this episode uncovering its mechanics, exploring the surprising ways it shapes our world, and learning how to protect ourselves from its influence. By the end, you'll be equipped to see people and yourself with a new, clearer lens. The halo effect is a cognitive shortcut where an initial positive impression in one area unfairly influences our judgment of a person's character in other, unrelated areas. If someone is highly attractive, for example, we unconsciously assume they are also more intelligent, more successful, and kinder. The single halo of beauty shines onto every other perceived quality. The term was first coined in 1920 by psychologist Edward Thorndike, who observed it in a study of military officers. He was astounded to find that an officer who rated a soldier as physically appealing also consistently rated that same soldier highly on abstract traits like intelligence, leadership, and even moral character, traits that had no objective link to their physical looks. Thorndike realized our minds crave coherence. It's easier for us to believe that all good things go together, just as we prefer to believe all bad things go together. And that brings us to the inverse, the horn effect. If someone has one initial negative quality, maybe they arrive late to a meeting, or they have a poor presentation style, we are quick to give them horns. We then assume they are disorganized, unintelligent, or difficult to work with. Both the halo and horn effects are products of a brain that is trying to conserve energy by making a snap judgment. We don't want to do the hard work of judging each trait separately, so we let one trait do all the heavy lifting. To truly understand why we do this, we need to look at the two systems that govern human thought, as defined by Nobel Prize winner Daniel Kahneman. The first is System 1 thinking. This system is fast, intuitive, emotional, and automatic. It's the part of your brain that handles immediate responses, seeing a spider and jumping, or seeing a beautiful face and feeling a positive surge. The halo effect is pure System 1. It operates unconsciously, instantly. The second is System 2 thinking. This system is slow, deliberate, logical, and analytical. It's the part that handles complex math, solves difficult problems, and checks your initial assumptions. The halo effect occurs because System 1 is lazy. It wants to build a coherent narrative as quickly as possible. When you see an attractive person, System 1 doesn't just register attractive. It automatically fills in the gaps. Attractive, therefore good. Attractive, therefore smart. Attractive, therefore successful. It creates an entire positive story about that person based on almost no information. The tragedy is that this simple story often overrides a more complex, accurate one. The psychological drive for coherence is incredibly strong. Once we place that halo on someone, it becomes very difficult to remove it because our brain will actively search for and favor any evidence that supports that initial positive impression, while discounting or ignoring evidence that contradicts it. This bias is not a theory. It's a scientific fact demonstrated in countless studies. A classic study involved essays written by college students. The researchers hired attractive and unattractive writers to pen the same poorly written essay. When the essays were graded, the exact same text received significantly higher marks when students believed it was written by the attractive writer. The halo effect literally boosted the perception of the work's quality. The judicial system provides even more sobering evidence. Studies on mock juries show that physically attractive defendants often receive lighter sentences than less attractive defendants, even for similar crimes. Furthermore, when the attractive defendant is the victim, they tend to receive more sympathy, and their perpetrators receive harsher punishment. The perceived goodness associated with beauty literally shifts the scales of justice. In the classroom, a study found that when an attractive student was accused of misbehavior, their teachers were more likely to blame external factors. They must have been having a bad day, while the same misbehavior from a less attractive student was attributed to their inherent character. They are a troublesome child. The halo effect biases even the most well-meaning educators. The halo effect is not confined to labs and courtrooms. It's the invisible hand shaping our entire consumer and professional world. In marketing and advertising, brands rely on the halo effect to sell products. When a global sports star endorses a shoe, we transfer the athlete's traits, their focus, their success, their dedication, onto the shoe. The product itself hasn't changed, but our perception of its quality and value skyrockets. The brand is buying a halo, not just a spokesperson. In politics, voters often struggle to separate a candidate's personal charisma from their policy competence. A candidate who is well-spoken, confident, and physically imposing can be perceived as more trustworthy, even if their policy platform is vague or flawed. The halo effect means we are often voting for the image of a leader rather than the substance of their leadership. Perhaps most critically, in the workplace, the halo effect profoundly impacts career progression. Attractive employees are often rated higher on performance reviews, seen as having greater potential, and are more likely to be promoted and receive better salary packages. This isn't because they work harder, it's because the halo of their appearance or confident presentation biases the perception of their true ability. Conversely, the horn effect means a highly competent but perhaps socially awkward or reserved employee can be overlooked and penalized. This is how systemic unfairness becomes built into the corporate structure. The power of the halo effect is undeniable, but we are not helpless against it. The key to mitigating its influence is to consciously activate your System 2 thinking. The first strategy is to isolate the traits. Whenever you meet someone or evaluate a performance, force yourself to rate traits independently. Instead of making a global assessment like, they are an excellent presenter, break it down. Their visuals were clear. Their delivery was engaging. The content, however, lacked depth. By separating charisma from content, you prevent the first from unfairly boosting the second. Second, practice diagnostic questioning. When you feel that strong initial pull towards or away from someone, ask yourself a few critical questions. What is the concrete evidence for this overall judgment? If this person looked or sounded different, would I still draw the same conclusions? This forces you to search for data instead of relying on your automatic gut feeling. Third, in professional or critical settings, you must systematize your evaluation. Use structured checklists and standardized questions. This is why interviews should be highly consistent across candidates, with structured scoring rubrics. The more you standardize the process, the less room you leave for the subjective influence of a halo or a horn. And finally, a powerful personal strategy is to cultivate intellectual humility. Accept that your brain is designed to take shortcuts and that your first impression is likely flawed. A true hallmark of intellectual maturity is recognizing that you don't know the full story and being willing to revise your opinion as new, specific evidence is presented. The halo effect is a fundamental bias, but understanding it is a powerful form of self-awareness. It teaches us that our perception of reality is not a camera recording facts, but an editor creating a story. By learning to check the editing process, by isolating traits, and by demanding specific evidence, we can move from making quick, biased judgments to making slow, informed decisions. This journey to clarity is essential for a more fair and objective life, both for how you judge others and for how you understand the judgments being made about you. If you found this deep dive insightful, please take a moment to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to Clarity Hub for more in-depth explorations of the human mind. And I want to hear from you. Can you recall a time the halo effect misled you? Share your stories and insights in the comments below.